Today, we are tackling one of the biggest, most complicated figures in all of history, Napoleon Bonaparte. So let's just jump right in with a question for you. When you hear that name, Napoleon, what is the very first word or image that pops into your head? Go on, think about it.
Chances are it's something powerful and probably kind of contradictory, right? Was he a tyrant or a genius? A liberator or a warmonger? The thing is, he was seen as all of these, often at the exact same time. So how is that even possible?
Let's get into it. To really get a handle on this guy, you've got to know where he came from. Napoleon wasn't born into some fancy French royal family. Nope. He was a total outsider from Corsica. And when he saw the absolute chaos of the French Revolution, he didn't see a crisis, he saw an opportunity, a ladder.
And just look at the speed of his climb. Seriously, check out these dates. He goes from being a nobody artillery officer to literally the most powerful man in Europe in a little more than 10 years. It was an absolutely meteoric rise, fueled by pure military genius and an ambition that was just off the charts.
And this right here is the central puzzle of Napoleon. Just think about it for a second. This guy was a product of a revolution that chopped off a king's head, and what does he do? He turns around and makes himself an emperor. How does that even work? Well, part of the answer is that he actually locked in some of the revolution's biggest goals. His most lasting legacy wasn't some famous battle. It was a book of laws. The Napoleonic Code was a total game changer. It just swept away centuries of old feudal nonsense and put in a system based on logic and equality. This one document changed how laws were written all over the world. And you know who understood this best? Napoleon himself. He basically said it right here. He knew that the glory of battles fades, but his legal reforms, that was forever. He knew exactly what his real legacy would be. All right, let's just pause for a second and talk about the elephant, or maybe the very small man in the room. It's probably the most famous thing about him, right? The whole Napoleon complex. But was he actually, short? So get this, the whole short Napoleon thing was basically just a brilliant piece of wartime propaganda. Look at this chart. His height was recorded in old French units as 5 pieds 2 pouces. Now, that translates to about 5'7" in our measurements today, which was actually taller than the average guy back then. But his enemies, the British, knew that 5 feet 2 inches in their system sounded super short, so they ran with it and created a caricature that has stuck around for 200 years. But here's the thing about a fire that burns that bright. The same insane ambition that got him to the top also planted the seeds of his own destruction. His constant need for more power, more land, more glory was eventually going to be his undoing. He conquered almost all of Europe, but then he just pushed it too far. The invasion of Russia in 1812, that was the big one. It was a complete and utter disaster. He marched in with this massive army, the biggest Europe had ever seen, and he limped out with just a handful of frozen, starving survivors. After that, the idea of Napoleon as this unbeatable god, it was shattered. But even after that crushing defeat, you just can't keep this guy down. He pulls off one of the most incredible comebacks in history. He literally escapes from exile, gets the whole country behind him again for this period we call the 100 Days, only to be beaten for good at the legendary Battle of Waterloo. So he's finally defeated and sent to this remote rock in the middle of the Atlantic. But the story still isn't over. Oh no, because the mystery of how he died is almost as debated as how he lived. Now, the official report, the autopsy, said it was stomach cancer. Simple enough, right? Same thing as Dad died from. But then, years later, scientists got their hands on some of his hair. And guess what they found? Insanely high levels of arsenic. This kicked off a huge conspiracy theory that he didn't just die, he was slowly and deliberately poisoned to death by his jailers. Okay, so we've got the battles, the laws, the propaganda, a possible murder mystery, but let's get to the big question. Why do we still care? Why is Napoleon still so important 2 centuries after he died? Because his impact is, well, it's everywhere. The laws that many countries use today, they're based on his code. The whole idea of national identity, of being German or Italian, he kind of accidentally kicked that off when people united to fight against him. His military tactics, they're still being studied right now. His actions sent out ripples that are still shaping our world today. And that takes us right back to where we started, to the central contradiction of the man. Was he a forward-thinking reformer who pulled Europe into the modern age? Or was he a power-hungry dictator whose wars killed millions? The really frustrating answer is yeah, he was both. And really, there's no easy answer here. Which brings us to the final question, and this one is for you. How should we remember people like this? People who brought about massive progress, but at a cost of so much destruction. What do you think? It's that exact question that makes Napoleon Bonaparte, more than 200 years later, one of the most fascinating and argued over people in all of history.